Welcome to Brave Talks, a space for honest conversations for men navigating cancer, recovery, and the strength needed to rebuild. My name is Owen. I'm here with my co-host Philip, and a guest for today I'd like to introduce is Wayne. Wayne, thank you for coming. Pleasure to have you today. You can just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, 46 years of age, knocking on 47. Born and bred from Kamali. Obviously, known Phil for a very good few years through the football circuit, played with him, shared many social activities with him over a period.
Who is that you're playing for Phil?
West, who played, 10, 50 years ago, Phil.
He witnessed that goal we were on the last word, yeah. It's only how that goal is, yes. Yeah. Busy time, yeah.
We said, for myself then, I work in the NHS, work in mental health. I'm a community mental health support worker. Done that for 21 years. Prior to that, I worked in St. David's Hospital, which is a psychiatric hospital based in Carmarthen. Started at the age of 18 there, and obviously up until today, currently still doing it. So very satisfying, enjoy that. Obviously, side to that, I'm currently involved coaching football with Cynthia Town football now.
Okay.
Previously managed at West when I finished my playing career. Went to Aberystwyth. So in the semi-professional circuit, I've spent a good few years. So that's taken away a lot of my energy.
Okay.
But, married, family life, daughter, stepdaughter, very close-knit. Obviously, they're growing up, both done well for themselves, both professionally trained, both nurses. Well, one's a qualified ODP, operational department practitioner in Morriston, and my daughter's then a community nurse based in Almaford. So that's what I'm at currently in my life.
Amazing. So before we get into a little bit the professional aspect of your career and talk a little bit about football all these years ago and football you've been involved in to this day, and how has that amateur scene been? And 15 years ago at West, and you're still involved, obviously, with a passion now for football. And
yeah, totally. Basically born and bred in Carmarthen. I was fortunate enough I made my Welsh league it was then. Conica League of Wales debut for Carmarthen Town, my hometown club, at 16.
Okay.
So we're fortunate there. Play left back, which obviously, you're limited to left footers, which give me the opportunity, I think. Worked hard, never technically great. Worked hard as best I could. Trained hard, focused. Led me on to having a good career in it. Obviously a big commitment. Being semi-pro to travelling, obviously up and down Wales, North Wales for 13 years. I retired at 29.
Was it because of doing Philip's running?
It could have been for, a lot of it. I sustained, I've had both my shoulders pinned in. One actually pinned in, and one keyhole surgery. Bad dislocations on both, which I know coming from football is very unfamiliar, but it was obviously a natural weakness. But obviously when I was getting older, 27, 28, after the operations, and I didn't really fulfill my fitness and to maintain that level, I wasn't at it. So I decided then to retire and took a career in coaching. Done my way for badges, went through that process, and was fortunate to be offered back down to West, where I obviously previously been playing, and as assistant manager role. I actually managed Cats. I signed you for a bit, Phil. Yeah, for every summer. Every summer, begging him to come, work commitments, family commitments, he couldn't, but he came back to help us out.
He's trying to get rid of me by the October then.
Yeah, gone. But we played together prior to that, and we had the time out there, and we were a good team as well. We weren't just off the pitch, we were close, it was on the pitch, and again, because of the locality, Pembrokeshire where we were, we had players come from Cardiff, to Swansea, but we all integrated really well, didn't we? And we had a good bond, good team, and one of our old managers, Darren Brace, who was inherently local, Darren, brought us all to the club really, where, we achieved good things. And obviously the club has gone on to bigger and better things now, which is fantastic to see.
Really?
But that's
For you, a bit about, obviously, for myself, passion and football as well, about getting too much detracting away from why we're here and what we're going to be talking about. But just, have you seen much change, like in that grassroots of the semi-pro from 15, 20 years ago to where it is now? Is it a different game? What's changed most notably for you, you feel?
Yeah, I think with the regulations of academy status, with clubs I know the FAW and UEFA have implemented and pumped a lot of money into it from the grassroots, which really wasn't as important, not as important, that's what I would say, but the funding and the priorities were there then. The facilities, the 3Gs, 4Gs have come now, the professionalism. I mean, from when we were playing, we travelled, say, to North Wales on the day. And obviously, when I've come into management, and I would say 95% of the clubs know it's nights, days, say, one nights. Okay, the preparation for it, but also you're working full time as well, which can be a hindrance, but it's a commitment you've got to, give, you've got to sign into it. And, again, it does affect family lives, which, I've seen firsthand. I've had players, I've had former players, possibly the commitments in the past have actually caused separations of relationships or marriages. Because, 3 or 4 times a week, you're basically on the road, whether it's training, staying the night over, travelling back after games. And, some relationships don't survive through it. So it does have an implication.
And so is the bonding as well, the players, and just being around that, like, as well.
Yeah,
time and away from relationships.
Yeah, it does, and that is a big factor I've seen since we went into the coaching side of things from when we were playing. Because when you're playing, all you concentrate on is playing. Sure. But when into the management side of things, you appreciate it more because you see how people function, how the commitments they actually do for it. But as a player, you're quite selfish. You just look after yourself. Everything comes together. But when you're having to manage it or organise it, and you see the other side of it, which it is quite interesting.
And with 16 and 20 guys, all got their own version, with functions and lives and pressures and all that sort of stuff. It's just management.
It's management. Yeah, I think mental health is the awareness we have now is so important and it's big. But again, we go back 20, 25 years ago. It just get on with it. Yeah, you can have a bad day at work. You meant to turn up with a smile on your face. And people behind the eyes don't know what's going on. And I think due to mental health awareness now, people are more sort of aware of how's he going to come in to me? Is everything all right? You ask a question, are you okay? As before, just get on with it. If you've had a bad day at work, you'd have a strop and you still get on with it, but you're going home. And like you said, you want to kick the cat type of thing. Okay. But you've got to use them sort of social activities as well to get things off your chest so you're a better person going home. Sure.
Yeah, and I suppose it's just realisation of others going through maybe stuff where before maybe you'd like, oh, Catman was a pain in the ass today, wasn't he? Like not realising maybe, he was just there, that mental health has become more of a, more of a topic, important topic. But
I think so. I think in football, it's become big as well. Because obviously the more professionalism the game's gone, the more the expectations, the more pressures. So obviously with pressures, side effects, it's the psychological effects that come with it. Whether that's playing, whether that's conditioning, whether it's diet, whether it's home life, you bring it all into one. And, it's quite challenging in its own way.
I'd like to dial back a little bit. Like when did you get involved in the space of mental health and how do you come about that? What was the reason behind that? And tell me a little bit about it.
That's a little bit funny, if I'm being honest. I came out of school, no qualifications. I wasn't the brightest in school in terms of academic-wise, very street-wise, but didn't really have much qualifications to do what would be my nurse training. And my dad was quite high up in St. David's Hospital. And I think he felt that at my stage, 16, 17, maybe not many GCSEs, wasn't going far in life. What are you going to do with yourself? Which, every parent does. And he said, look, come to work at the hospital. Basically, see how you like it, blah, blah, blah. I mean, my personality, I'm quite compassionate anyway. And my mum worked in mental health as well. So I was brought up in that environment. And then when the opportunity came when I turned 18, so prior in school, when I was in sixth form, I was working in Tesco part-time. And full-time vacancies come up as a nursing assistant, like an auxiliary, which is now a healthcare support worker. So I applied. Obviously, my dad pulled a few strings, I think, no doubt, got into it and never looked back, Ample opportunity to do my nurse training, but you do the football commitments and everything else with it. Just really never got to grips with it. And still ask the question now and work out, why do you do your training, this and that? But I enjoy my job where I do. Very challenging, good days, bad days, obviously dealing with mental health and I work a lot with young adult acute. So that's got its own challenges, but, I'm fortunate. I've got good work colleagues, we've got good bosses. We share a lot of our work and amongst each other, so we don't take it home, but it's very satisfying,
So is this within the public domain or private domain? Is this within the...
With the NHS, yeah, who are there. I work in a community based in Carmarthen, support clients with obviously psychiatric needs, as well as what's coming a lot of is ADHD. So obviously it's a side effect in terms of it affects mental health. So we've had a lot of referrals come on, and there's a team the side. So, at my own personal caseload, I deal with a few gentlemen who've got that complex needs as well. So, it varies, and, obviously every day is never the same in terms of that kind of work. But, yeah.
And then you're done up. So you'll do.
Yeah, well, yeah, you had 18 onwards, 17 onwards. It varies, I see some of my clients are 60 to 70 years of age, So, the actual age aspect, anything 18 above that, But my own natural case, where I got quite a lot of young, adult guys, early 20s and stuff, so.
You just mentioned ADHD. You just mentioned a little bit of what you do there, but what have you seen? What was one or two things that really stand out to you from where we are now? Obviously more awareness to mental health, but what are the, in society, what are the, I suppose, big factors that are really coming out in people today that maybe wasn't there 10, 15 years ago, or maybe just wasn't aware?
I think, it's well scripted on the news is that, a lot of drug-induced psychosis has come along, especially within my period since, to the transition of mental health going big and the full awareness of it is that, obviously with the illicit drugs that are out there, a lot of service users taking whatever reasons or whatever, which has a lot of psychological effects. Puts a lot more pressure on ourselves because obviously they don't know how to deal with it. They have complex issues or whatever they're having. Big changes in medication. I think that's a big factor. Unfortunately, the problem we have within our working environment is the lack of facilities to a degree for beds in psychiatric units. Obviously, I know, the government are pumping money into it and it's getting bigger and better, but having to contain a large majority of clients in the community setting, which possibly some may need admission, but obviously the bed state that doesn't allow them. So we have to manage them then. There's new teams that have been implemented, like the crisis team. There's an IPS team, an intervention psychological team. There's all different teams that have been formed in order to contain the clients we have with complex needs rather than admission. So I think that's a big factor in terms of the transition in how mental health is changing. And again, it's like you said, you can only do what you can do, but that's a big factor I've personally experienced over the last 10, 15 years.
There's a lot of pre-programs like before it actually becomes an issue, like in schools or, you find that is it a bit more education and awareness?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, there's a lot of things implemented. I think at every school now there's like a liaison nurse. There's a police officer liaison there. So, if it goes down the criminal justice system or any sort of difficult needs there, I think it's try to sort of nip in the bud early. We've got a CAMS unit where the mental health team will link in with the schools there, but that's obviously under 18 years of age. Hence, from my point of view, our team, we get referred over after 18. And so obviously if you're in the service, then the minute they turn 18, they'd be referred to the adult team. But yeah, it started because obviously mental health is going younger and younger. So that's basically where they're at. Sorry, what was CAMS? Well, CAMS, the child and mental health unit. That's the service.
So what are the tools that, I suppose, for mental health or support structures or tools that are out there that, people listening to?
There's a lot, obviously, we get a lot from GP referrals. But then obviously when they come into us, because we're not primary care, we're secondary care, we get referred from there. We have a lot of liaison we have psychologists, there's like occupational therapists. We've got so many different teams as such. The social team with us, because we're an integrated team for social needs as well. That's massive because especially in the transition of people are homeless, they come out and even benefits, the support system there, there's a lot out there that people aren't aware of. But as well as then, there's a lot of private and charity organisations that are about, which, we do signpost a lot to in terms of if they feel they don't need to be cared for in our service, then we can signpost them to obviously a third party then.
With the majority of the people you deal with, will they always need your assistance? Or
No. Basically when they refer to us, if it's a deemed a high package of care,
yeah,
they'll be referred to us and they'll have a care coordination with a named nurse will work under, and that could be a social worker, it could be occupational therapist, psychiatric nurse. They will govern their care in order to meet the needs of the client. It can be a short period. It can be over a couple of weeks' work, or it could potentially, we have some who've been booked, say, for the last 20 years. They're all chronic schizophrenics.
Yeah.
People like, I see myself, they still need that day-to-day support or weekly support in order for them to function in the community. And our job initially is to keep them at hospital. So whatever that takes, we like to try to meet that need and tick that box,
What does that look like? The support that you would, like, giving examples of the types of support that you would have in, caring for someone, and what type of tools, like what was, them examples of, what would you deal with?
My
People talking, is that like...
Yeah, it's a bit of talk. We've got groups with us. We have a walk and talk group. It's a bit therapeutic, just to get those guys out, socialization, meeting, giving them the confidence. If they're low esteem, they quite withdraw and neglect themselves. From benefits, we help them function on a weekly basis. I support them paying their benefits, their bills, also activities, taking them out, interacting within leisure centres, just where we just trying to get them back confident, get them back living as independent of what they can. And, living a normal, healthy life as what they can under the condition and illness they've got.
Is it you that would assess them, or do they pre-assess and then they come to you?
What they do, they'll get referred from their GP on an acute service. They go in wherever, they could be suffering depression, blah, blah, blah. The GP refer them to us, where they be assessed by the qualified nurses. And therefore, that's where they will make the decision then after the assessment on what needs need to be met, what we can do for them. And obviously, we'd engage with them then and hopefully work with them. And obviously, the medication side of things.
So what does that look like, the assessment? What sort of...
They go in as questionnaire. It's obviously, there's plenty of questions there. So they build a good picture, their background, their history, any family history, their thoughts, their plans. It's building a whole picture, and it's all about what they want.
Yeah.
And again, if they don't have the capacity maybe to give the answers, then they're entitled to an advocate. Family member can come in and represent and speak for them, basically. So it's not a case needs, but that's how it is. There's other ways and means of getting it across to the team, and then they make the final decision on where they want to go, what they want to do with the client.
Do you find it's a lot of the family members who recognise there's some issues mentally, and then they're the ones who are trying to, be out, or as opposed to, that individual recognise and realising that I need to get seen here, or like, is that?
I think that's a big factor, whether it be your wife, your partner, your brother, sister, mother, auntie, we get a lot of that, and then when they actually come to us and they accept that they need trade, because at the end of the day, they've got to accept it, because I know the old quote, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink it, but they've got to, certainly be recognised. But now, people maybe they've been drug induced psychosis, they actually have no insight whatsoever. And then again, we liaise a lot with the crisis team, where people, if you need to go in a crisis in the evening, you can go to A&E department, we can get assessed there and then straight away. And then again, it would be referred to our team after that prior, if the need is met.
Right.
So yeah, it's getting better, it's getting more functional. And it is improving. It is slowly.
Just a last, I suppose, on that, without going too much, what was the one thing that you feel is needed? Even though there's a lot of awareness now happening, and more people bring so much light to it, but being involved in, I suppose, the day-to-day, like, what is the next sort of 3 to 5 years needed to really match what you're saying?
Yeah, I think again, from my point of view, from where I work in the community, I think if there was more money pumped in, and we have bigger facilities for inpatient setting, obviously we're outpatient, so they could really, but, having sometimes when I've worked in the crisis team, having some clients sitting in A&E for 48, 60 odd hours, waiting maybe for a bed, I don't think anybody deserves that, and that's in A&E, the bombardment, and it's frantic busy. You walk into his apartment, you see people sitting there. It doesn't necessarily they've got cuts, viruses, some of them are mentally unwell. And I think from our point of view, if there could be more facilities available, or even a unit that they could go there, and it's not the stigma cutting people off. But like you said, some people are sitting there because they're traumatized for whatever reasons. And then you could be sitting next to someone who's got a chest infection waiting, and they've got just so much weight.
For sure.
But I just think that the mental health sides of things, I think if there was more funding for an inpatient and bigger settings, I think we'd be in a better place.
Yeah, we at a hospital, say I had last year where there's patients with dementia. So obviously people can't cope with them at home. Yeah. And there's not really any room in their homes for anymore. And they're walking around the hospitals now, and the nurses, they're not trained, I don't think, to deal with.
Oh, totally. And again, one thing I've observed over the last few years, especially is social services, I know the government, they are pumping a lot more finances, more of the social services and maybe the health side, which is needed because, like you said, facilities and that could be, in terms of where do they go, is there funding for a care home, is there this and that, and if there's not, you're stuck at home, and like I said, you walk in the streets. Yeah. But it is getting better, I've got to say, and that's, from my own experience, I can see it is improving slowly.
Do you, in a younger age, I know you work 18 above, but just obviously understanding, like, is there a big increase of numbers for the younger kids? And if so, why? Like, what do you see?
Again, I think, we go back to it. Is it technology? Is it phones? Is it YouTubes? People are learning, I go back with my daughter and we were quite conscious of video games, the aggression side of things. And then, kids were getting addicted to play certain games. They were all violence. And again, I think in terms of modern day society has changed so much, I think we're still behind in it, but, there are teams in the mental health are improving, trying to catch them early and young, educate them. Education is key, again, bring in your background.
Yeah.
You see a lot of it. So, it's a difficult one because you're not sure what to say is right and what isn't, but it is improving again, but there's a long way to go. It's good.
Well, in your experiences, just in that, we're here in terms of how men deal with cancer and diagnosis around cancer. And in your professional experience, do you come across many mental health cases and relations from that offset of cancer? Or?
Yeah, we do. Because we work very close with our clients, and sometimes we glorify babysitters. But we support, me and my colleagues. We support clients going for GP, for outpatients appointments. I know some of my colleagues are in the process of dealing and supporting as we speak 1 or 2 clients with cancer, and maybe they haven't much family background, they haven't much family support. So where they crutch, then in order for appointments, as well as trying to break things down, give them insight to what is actually going on, because maybe they haven't got the capacity to understand. But yeah, it's that can happen on a daily basis with us. And it's saying as common. 2 of my colleagues yesterday with them, they're in the process now of actually supporting one of our clients who's just been diagnosed with it. And, obviously they got family away. So they're trying to have dialogue with the family as well as supporting the client to obviously understand the needs and the process they're going to go through.
How just from my own experience, going through cancer, my own diagnosis, I never had I suppose a platform or the discussion about you can get support. Like, I don't know about your experience, Bill. Like, how do these people get referred? Like, because there was no knowledge to me that I can speak to someone if I want, so I kept it in.
Yeah,
how does that? If someone's listening, like, who can you reach out to?
Again, within the service with us, there's health and well-being, this psychologist. I go back to it. There's counsellors who just come in and talk. There's a unit in the Old St. James Hospital where a gentleman's bought it over them, and there's a lot of private support networks. And there's one there about cancer. I forget the name of it at the moment because it's literally goes through transition now. And it's a drop-in centre. They're doing talks up there. But there's other things as well. It's not specifically this because the organisation, it's going bigger and it's all, it's drop-in. There's no referral scheme. It's a chat about things and they're covering all aspects, and they even signpost where to go, what to do, how to go about things.
So yeah. So I suppose just when I was listening, it's just about just ask, like, not wait to be told. There is support there. There's some structure in place. Up to reach out to know.
Yeah, I think you should simply kill up in a bowl and don't want to say anything, don't you?
Yeah. I think we had the discussion, sometimes as well, trying to speak to someone who's not been diagnosed in their past as well, whether it's a medical professional or someone that was just where we talk about is still difficult to.
It was easy to know, and I kept saying that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't been through it,
so you can lean on to the thing,
relate to it a bit more.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Which it's not shouldn't be the way as well, like, because then
no,
it's still very much a helper. Like, profession, you've been in dealing where you're dealing and know a lot of tools, techniques, and ways to help and the challenges that when someone goes through cancer. I think it's just important for people to know there is just reach out,
definitely. Yeah, of course. There's a lot there.
Yes. So just personally as well, in terms of your own experiences, I know you had a family member, went through cancer. Would you tell me a little bit about, your own journey and?
Yeah, obviously, my mum passed away August 2024. Short illness. Mum, it was me, lived with my mum all my life. Obviously, me and my sister were brought up. My parents split up when I was young. So obviously, mum had done a lot of things on her own. Although my dad was very supportive, also a great dad. We never wanted for nothing, what have you. And obviously, where we were brought up, single parent, things were tough. Mum worked hard all life, as I said earlier, worked at St. James Hospital. Never really financially blessed, worked all. Always looked forward to her retirement. That was a big thing for her. Through the process, she bought her house, mortgage free, done everything right, worked so hard for it. But it was lucky because she dotes on her grandchildren, 4 grandchildren, one grandson, 3 granddaughters, all very close.
So you and the sister, right?
Yeah, I do my sister. Yeah, my sister 3 kids. I got 1, and I got a stepdaughter. But my daughter, because I live near one, basically when me and the wife were going out, because my daughter lived with mum and dad, as good as, she was a big crutch for us, blah, blah, blah. But obviously 2 years ago, February 2024, it was my sister really. My mum would have stayed with my sister, where she recognised the early signs. And my mum was always quite, like me, hypomanic, always on the go, workaholic, sociable. And stayed on the alarm, and my sister, to be fair, picked up on it when I was quite tired, fatigued. So she went to stay with my sister, and my sister said she walked in the bathroom and literally just looked at her and noticed the weight loss. Even my mum was saying tired all the time, which wasn't. My mum had the prior. So fair play, my sister acted, look, we're going down the doctors, this and that, and basically fronted everything. My sister, she wanted the best, this, that and the other, sent for scans, for tests, where diagnosed cancer stage 4, which we were within that. They thought at the time that it was ovarian cancer. So obviously we had to go for further tests as we did. So again, my sister, outstanding, and myself took whatever really he did. And then we were referred down to, I think it was Professor Woodhams down at Withy Bush Hospital, which he was a specialist in ovarian cancer. And he wasn't too happy with the results, this and that. So he said for further tests, where it turned out to be it wasn't ovarian cancer, but they couldn't find out where the cancer was or where it had started from, because it had spread so fast in a period of time. So she had to go and undergo a few more tests, back and forth, Withy Bush, we've got Singleton, back and forth, where by now the ball, the time was ticking to the degree there was no treatment openly. And she was diagnosed February. And we knew it was a 66th birthday in May, where she was entitled to old age pension. And it was something part when I go back to, she always wanted to be happy, retired, financially stable, and passed away in the August.
Wow. Okay.
So it was so fast. But she was so brave within it all, if I'm being honest. And people look at her so quick. In a short period, she prepared everything, because we thought there was no cure. There's nothing we can do, unfortunately. We went to Singleton on a few occasions where it spread to her leg. They just wanted to attack the cancer there.
As you brave through it all.
Sorry. Turn a moment now. But yeah, we didn't really, feet didn't touch our ground. He just
Too fast.
too fast. She kept smiling, and so he had big decisions to make then. Because my mum lived on the road in the Trueberry house, down the road from me. And where'd you go with this? And we know what you do. So, sorry. My sister, she got a 4-bed house, obviously with her kids and that, and my nephew lives in London. She said, look, she come and live with me. My mum wanted to stay in the house because part that she built it. But the practical needs of it weren't sustainable. up and down the stairs. We knew things were going to get tough. And my sister, like a big four-bed house, she had a ground floor, not en suite, but the toilet near things, the accessibility of it was easy. So we made a decision. Didn't look coachable. At the time, I was quite reluctant to do it. Look, man, it's best. We're going to do on a journey of that. We don't know what's out of us, like, sorry. So, we made the decision in that. She came to live with my sister. And with the partners, things going on. Time is more fast.
Yeah.
Just going really fast. And it started to see a deterioration. And, we're having the palliative care came in early enough. Brilliant. Nothing but praise. The district nurse, who we happen to know as a friend of ours, came regular, regular visits. And then when 2 months prior to when she passed away, in June, and actually diagnosed from February, March, April, that's 12, 15 weeks. It's bonkersly fast. And you're seeing the change, you're seeing it. And it is nothing, unfortunately, we can do. All we wanted to do was just to make her happy, comfortable every day. So we both took time off work, cared for her. To be fair, I was living with my sister and big cat for my sister, in her house where, she was still working, but she took time off. Having to deal with all this, but nothing but credit, she was outstanding with it, took everything to the lead, to the best of everything. So obviously going into the last couple of months when we were off work, to give her a break, and she got a partner at the time. I was going stay, babysitting, rotating the night so she could have time off, and going out. And so I was going over to stay there. My wife and my daughter, and my auntie, everybody was like hands to the pump, just to make her as comfortable as best and what we can, and then. Yeah, it was very difficult, very difficult.
Unless she was so strong for all your mum.
She was. She was. And the only thing she always said, because me and my sister were both quite highly strung, and that's all she said, no matter what happens, no arguments. You don't argue, she said. And we always pick her in after, but never really argue, and we never have. And
I got sisters, that's all you do, isn't it?
And yeah. But, in all that as well, even though my parents were separated, my dad was outstanding. Came there full on and, very supportive to me and Kelly as well. Not just emotionally, but financially as well, because we were off work. He made sure that he was helping us, because things changed, don't they? You'd argue with us, check my mum out, doing to do this, that and the other. And it was all, let me saw bad, so it brought us together in its own way, because but my mum and dad, even though they worked together, the love was always there. We've always known that one. The bond, and it's something I'm quite proud of, looking back that way,
Can I just dial back at those? So she was diagnosed in February, and at what point your sister said she noticed there was something not right? What point beforehand is that? How happy before you were, how long was all in test before getting to that?
Well, that was before all the tests, and I would say, and Carrie may disagree, but I would say end of January.
What does your sister do?
She works for NHS Direct from the dental on the telephones, if you're in pain, and then she refers you, sorry.
So it was in January 2024.
24.
The ultrasound was not right, and then
yeah, she was complaining. My wife was the way I knew back in hindsight. When they go for some topping at Christmas, my wife was standing with me, and they went to, I think it was Cross Hands, like Aldi's, and my mother was complaining about the back of her leg. And it's apparently, which I didn't know, it can be quite common, like cancerous and a pain in the back of the leg again. And but my wife thought she knew about it because my mother was apparently, my leg's killing me anymore. And jokingly, tongue-in-cheek, you'll be on a bloody cancer. She was like, it was never got cancer, no, was it? And they sort of generally laughed about it. And I remember her saying that at the time. When obviously had the period then after, went through Christmas, end of January. And obviously my mum went to stay with my sister because she wasn't feeling 100%. And we thought, because she had COVID, and you're generally thinking, weak, this and that. And it was the trigger point, and I think it was the end of January, was when she looked in the bathroom and my mother was, and even though facially you could see, my mother wasn't a big woman, but I remember saying, Wayne, the ribs. She said, there's something going on here. And that's when it just straight to the GP, with the blood tests and everything, and then sent on to...
I would like to talk about the treatment part, but that's testing part, but so you notice just weight change, but so there's nothing in terms of from her own appetite.
No,
Eating. She was just doing what she was doing. It just organically just.
Organic. I remember I wouldn't say quite a heavy smoker.
Okay.
Like and again, but she went through a phase that she went off the cigarettes, like the taste or something. Which, but I may be wrong. I think this could have been when she was earlier diagnosed. Whether that could have been stress related or whatever. But she just felt taste factors. She didn't even cigarette having. Sorry, she smoked rolls. Run fire. Yeah, and she said enough to say no tasting. And you look back and I say, well, was that the disease then that triggered them taste buds? Or maybe was it stress? We don't know. That type of thing.
So in terms of from that moment and going to see with GP, was that the first you got? Was that her first sight? She had biopsies with blood tests.
Yeah, blood test came back. Very worried. Straight referred to the what department she go to straight away if I remember. They got I told you she went there first. It just the test results back, doctor in the sea there, and then it was they called you straight into Glanwilly for scans.
Okay.
Straight away.
PET scan.
PET scans as well. Scans because of the heavy smoking and the coughing. It was basically test the lungs and everything else with it. But I remember, I remember the hysterectomy when she was younger. And when they said about ovarian, which is, but I mean, they were questioning because of she had the hysterectomy and the ovarian cancer. Well, watch what? So they'd done a scan, I think at the time, the lower part of the body came back and it wasn't actually there. So they'd done the higher, which was in the period of time where before we weren't sure that what stage she was at. It was a few weeks then when she went for the scan higher, where they found loads of cancerous markers and everything. As it had spread so quick, but they wanted to know where did it spread from.
So they never seen anything with lower half. Is that?
No, they suspected ovarian first of all, but until all the scans had come back, it wasn't there. So we had to go for further investigations, and that's down to where we seen the professor down in Withybush, where they done, and he demanded that he wanted it all done. And it was done there. They kept us in that afternoon because we sat them, we sitting in the corridors waiting, and he was quite cross that it hadn't, the top half of being done, which was done, and that's where we had the results, obviously in terms of where she was at, and then, there's a little part of treatment in Singleton then, but that's what I see, was it? It was, Phil, yeah, well, that was another story, wasn't it? We were sitting in the day room in Singleton, and obviously me and Phil have always kept in touch, and I knew he hadn't been well or whatever, so, and it was one of them, me, my mum, my sister sitting in the day room there, because my mum was having a scan there. No, and that was a bit of chemo, that was the one off her leg, they were taking it off her leg there, and I said, what are you doing there? And you were there for a day, it was quite how many days were you there?
Yeah, 6 weeks.
6 weeks, that's right, yeah, because I remember seeing you on day 20 or whatever, and you're up pulling for half hour from Tenbury, and obviously we've kept in touch since then. Yeah.
I can remember actually touching base with you, like, probably again, when you were saying to me now about how quick it was with your mum.
Yeah.
From touching base with him and saying, how was
your mum, right?
Jifford, you passed. I didn't know either, like I'd seen her.
Yeah, a couple of months before. Yeah, filming it, madness. Just, and going back to be fair, my mum was so organised about things. She wanted everything done, until she prepared a funeral. I'm not only going to sit down with someone and talk. She told us the songs. She wanted the hymns and but in a way we're fortunate because my wife lost my father-in-law sudden, and he had no chance of doing that. The only comforting thing is that we had the time, and my Connie youngest advice to me. For every day with a kiss. Yes, tell her you love her. We go out for a coffee, kiss her, and I done that every day on the day she was diagnosed. And remember, the people early doors, it was, pick it off, man, you know what you're doing. And I tell her, I love you, man. But as time was going on, that she was deteriorating. She don't be it, she know that she was going. And a little bit of a funny what I laugh at it, and part of her illness, we had my friend's wedding. Do you know Steve Plow? From Narberth, he does the Ironman. So, right anyway. Yeah, his wedding we did. And a big change, you know, my mum was diagnosed or have you. And I look back and I laugh about little things, even because you've got to take some spirit out of it as well. You know, you've got to have some, it's not all doom and gloom, because we were fortunate until the final days. We had time to, like I said, kiss her, tell her, love her, spend. And we had fun as well. We laughed. You know, my mum would joke. He was poorly, she was. And the big trigger point, because we knew the cancer was spreading. So on the Saturday, we went to Steve's wedding, and me and my sister were doing our shifts. So I knew I was coming in on the Sunday to look after her for the day. And, you know, it's like an enjoyable tell. So you have a few pints in the wedding, and you really got to try and go with it. And I was doing my sister at 11 o'clock on a Sunday, and I get a phone call 8 o'clock in the morning. I would be rough now, and I go, no. And she said, and my sister said, oh, look, Wayne, she said, you need to come over now. Mum's all right. And I said, what do you mean all right? Wayne, she's all right. She's bizarre. So we've driven over, and as it happened, Steve used to work with my mum, and Steve's a psychiatric nurse. And so when we turned up in the house, I look back funny, like, just her behaviour, what had happened, the cancer spread to her brain, which I thought it had, just the way she was. And her tone, well, hello, how are you? Were you talking, I guess? I'm like, Mark, come on now, you're on finals. Where have you been yesterday then? So I said, we're at the Steve's wedding, man. Oh, who's Steve? And you could have sworn she was acting.
Yeah.
But it was the disease that got to her brain, how she was. But she was so calm, placid. So, well, if you told me, I would have got him a card. But and you know, not understanding it. Well, man, I told you yesterday. But it was only till afterwards. I was like, I'll go my wife. My wife's like that. So 2 minutes later, she go, well, hello, where have you been then? This was repetitive. I just told you to honest, you know.
Yeah.
You stand up, you know, you're thinking, where's this going? So again, my sister, look, she said, we're taking her to A&E, you know, she needs to be seen straight away. So and she said it 4 or 5 times. In the end, I'm giggly with her, no, ma, no, so I got to go on with her, no, ma, you know, blah, blah. But as it happened, we took her to A&E. Obviously told her about the history. She had a scan where it had gone to her brain. And we knew, no, this is the turning point. This is where she's gone from actively coping okay. So she was prescribed steroids, which quick acting. And it was hard to believe, because like the day after she came out then, she was like back to normal. But obviously you get a short-term medication because it spread, you know what I mean? So, you know, the disease has got her, unfortunately. And taking, you know, the side effects with every medication, taking that, and that was the pivot point where 3 or 4, that was the big trigger deterioration where, you know, she was heading towards the final days after that. You know, gone to the brain, you know, unfortunately. But
How fast was that, like, from that moment?
the steroids had instant impact where they put her back. So, you know, my thing, I'd be, everything's fine now. She's okay now. And then the palliative nurses came out and sort of explained, look, she said, and the dose of the steroids will go up over a period, because obviously you need to be stronger and stronger because of it. But then they can't go too high, they've got to bring them down again. So they're playing a juggling act because you can bombard with too much of them. So, you know, me and my sister were a pharmacist then every day without the other medication, making sure this and that, you know.
Did you have chemo? How much chemo did you have and all that?
She didn't. She went for a few on the leg.
Right.
And I think it was the buttocks type of thing.
They're not really bothering chemo because it's not when she's that far.
That far gone. It was too far gone. It was too gone. Anyway, at the drugs, it was a case of you got to live with this deal there. I love her. One thing she never wanted, like, was the care team coming in. So obviously I had them in the gym. So me and Kai said, we're going to do it between us. We're going to look for you. We're going to care for you, Matt, until you close your eyes. And it reached the stage more for my sister because, you know, having to wash her, things like that, and my sister and my wife, and even, to be fair, my daughter was doing a lot, you know, because she's a nurse, and, you know, that's on the dignity side of things. You know, I was being the chaperone, do blah, blah, blah. But towards the latter days, and I remember saying to my sister, Kelly, I said, Kel, we need the carers, you know, because my mum was getting uncomfortable, frustrated, and sort of snapping at Kelly a lot. And like I said to Kel, I said, look, you shouldn't have to, you're losing your love for your mum and daughter relationship here because you're looking after her, and she sort of, get off with you, hurting me, Kelly. Now is the time to get, and Kelly agreed to it. And it was only 2 days before the carers came in. And my mother passed as if, because, you know, in hindsight, she didn't want that.
Done one end.
And I think she knew it was time, you know. And, you know, like I say, she went very quick.
Did they ever, like they suspected it was ovarian cancer, but was there any other afterwards or during the time, was there any label in terms of what the cancer was? Like, was it just one unknown?
It was unknown for a while. And again, I go back, my mum was a heavy smoker. And the ovarian was written off, but it had gone so far, it had spread so much and so much around her. You know, the organs were all attacked type of thing. Obviously a liver that had it. So I was always conscious to the grandchildren who live in our lives, jaundice, and I didn't want the skin sort of changes to the degree that, you know, I've experienced that at work, and I didn't really, you know, my kids and certainly my my nieces and nephews seeing my mum like that, because my mum was a proud woman.
I think I mentioned that. Then I've worried about losing my hair.
Yeah.
The weight come off me, but I want the kids to see.
And you know,
something's different.
different, you know. And you know, even in the back of my mind, I was scared, thinking, oh, you know, like if it's the liver and jaundice, you're going to go, you know, yellow in the end. And, you know, that's just one vision I didn't. And to be fair, it wasn't, my mum was, you know, I used to return in jaundice as the time was going on, as her body was shutting down, but it wasn't too bad that way. And I'm glad for her, because she was just a proud woman and always, you know, like an investor, heavy, looking good. And like you said, she looked after herself very well that way, you know.
So there's no source. It never found a source.
Obviously, with the death certificate, it was put on lung cancer. And that was where we most probably had the closure. That's what it was. But I think it had gone so quick and fast, they couldn't
Really identify
track where it actually was, you know. It was bonkers, you know, and, you know, yeah. But, you know, I go back, I mean, the teams that were involved, and because you were smoking, you'd have like this whole sensation. They were trying to, and like it was at the stage, oh look, we're not going to deprive her of anything, you know. And my sister, to be fair, hates smoking. But it always asked my mum and this, and I have to, and like I was in on, I was giving my mother the extra bag, because it was in my sister's house outside. Oh, no joke, Harry, that's the thing, you know.
You become an expert room.
Well, I said, my wife used to roll and form a little bit as well, but yeah, you know. And my mother used to say, I said, go to the kitchen and give her another one, like, you know, but yeah.
With your experience, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So it's for someone listening and, you know, just reflecting on your sister, what you've been through, and is any, like, I know your sister caught quite early, but any advice, any takeaways that you feel could be helpful?
Yeah, I think, you know, if you have that gut feeling, which my sister did, and I didn't, you know, I raised my hand, I didn't, because, you know, obviously women are, you know, they sort of talk or they see more and that. Don't take any risks. If you feel anything different, you know, and had potentially my mum, even with a leg, in hindsight, you say, you know what, you know, for sure. But if someone said to me walking down the street and a lady on my back of my leg, the first thing I'd be saying, oh, look, don't call me paranoid, but just go and have a check. Go to the doctor. And it was like, my mum was saying, it was like a dead weight that she'd have to lift the leg up. But then she'd walk. But then sometimes, oh, the pain. And yeah, I know me and my wife were often, and that's what she says, you know, walking, I'd even home baggins, and oh, my back of my leg. And, you know, had maybe my mother had gone then, which was at Christmas. Like, you don't know if there'd be enough hindsight it is, but, you know, again, any worry, anything, just get it checked. It costs nothing, does it? We'll get it checked, for sure. You know, and, you know, sometimes maybe we don't want to because they can the worst. But you can't attack, you know, you can't deal with it unless you get it solved. Look, that's with me.
Was there any, apart from obviously you and your sister being rock stars in terms of for your mum, was there any other support that she had or got or she went through? Like,
you know, friends and family, really. It in the process, it's a little bit thing, like, because obviously, I think my mum had a good network of friends. You know, some very good friends, close. My auntie, very close, you know, supportive there. But my mum was so proud, she didn't want visitors. And it was awkward for us and Kelly some days. We literally on the doors, people wanted to call show Willie, and my mum, I don't want to see you. And she just wanted to sit with us. So, not lying, but you know, I'm going to say, oh, she's not up to it today, that type of thing. And again, it goes back, my mother's appearance, she didn't feel good. You know, I had people to see her like that. And it's funny because especially in the latter days, and it's little things like one of her cousins who she was brought up as a young girl with. And, you know, they would say close. And my mother was asking to see her. So I went down the house, Mum we could have gone to the house and they were a bit taken back why. And we wanted to talk about her childhood as if things were going back. And, you know, it's just little things that in that period, you look back and think, whoa, you know, where did that come from? Or
Did she, it's like, obviously when older, so to speak, like, and we touched on it, like with obviously Kathy's, coming a lot more in younger people, they might not have friends that, so to speak, that have been through cancer like I had. Owen, had been through it. Did you both not have like friends who'd been through cancer?
yes, she lost one of her friends, Ailsa, who she worked with.
What I mean is that was when she had cancer, your friends were there to say,
can you do this? Sorry, the guys was sorry, apologies. No, not really. No, not that I recall. You know, so when we sort of, look, you can do this, or this. So it was all fresh to us, you know, and it was, you know, even ourselves really, we didn't know what to do. Like we had to just get on with face what we could. And you know, the care team did offer certain things, like you remember the psychology and things like that, you know. A counsellor came for her, my mum, on 2 sessions, which I thought my mum, they were talking about, my mum would talk about her past, you know, maybe from her past experiences. And she didn't really tell me much about what was said because, you know, you ask her how to go about, you talk about shit about my past. So I think there's a build-up, you know, on my mum's psychological history from, you know, she was divorced from my dad. I think there's things that she felt that she had to get off her chest, knowing she was going to die. But there's things that she felt she had to get off, and I think she used that opportunity with the counsellor to do so. And she wouldn't disclose to her. You say about, I remember her say, it doesn't matter. So, and obviously because of patient confidentiality, they would never ask the counsellor what she said, but I think maybe they're not satisfaction just from seeing her. And there was only two occasions they came.
That's probably enough for you.
And it was enough. We left the house, they were there. You know, whatever went on there, I couldn't tell you to this day, but my mother never told us what it was and didn't want to, which is fine, you know, so I hope she had satisfaction from that.
No. How about yourself and your sister in terms of, you know, it's a big, so quick, so fast, and we talked about that grief and how you guys sort of dealt with it, and what would you recommend to people how to? Because
I think, no, I fortunately, I've had good friends, good mates, who were colleagues. Envis, one of my colleagues, she'd be my rock. My wife, to be fair, you know, my daughter, for all of us. 2 of my best mates every single day, Paul and Duck, you know, Paul, not Polish. Ever since my mum was diagnosed, every day, just ring in, you know, which we never done before.
just checking in.
And it's a bit uncanny because Paul lost his mum last year. And we've called on phone calls, but we still every day, which best mates we've never done. But it's just little things, it's brought us closer together. And it's just something about, but from me, like most people are, you know, I struggled. I went down the road of drinking too much. But when I was drinking, 2 of my mates in my network of drinking nets had been through what I had.
Right.
They lost their mums through cancer, and they were brilliant to me. And obviously it did, if I'm being honest, have an effect home life. Because I was going down the pub every night. I finished football, because obviously I was coaching for the ferry then to look after my mum. And when she passed, it was every night just wanted to go drink. And it's take your mind off it. It's black, you know, I'm a good poker player. You know, I walk into work every day, you know, and I never think I'm okay, but I didn't get near it.
I think most men
100%. You know, I struggled. I still do a bit. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I can't fault, you know, the support I've had in work. Everything, you know, I'm fortunate, you know, and I've got a good family. My dad's brilliant. You know, he struggled himself. He struggled more than any of us. You know, I think he had a lot of guilt from his past. And, you know, he had a quadruple bypass 10 years ago, and even though I'd paid for the war, my mum had to stay with him, like I looked after him and cared him. And I think, not that we have talk, the old man thing, we don't, you know, we don't talk much together about it. I mean, he goes on Century every week. You know, I go when I can, but I struggle a bit doing it. I want to. I mean, that'll come at another time, you know. My sister, to be fair, she struggled. You know, she went for like early to a bit of bereavement counselling, and she was pushing me, Wayne, go for bereavement counselling, go. And I just say, I don't need it, Callus. My counselling is going down the path. I feel good doing it. I'm not saying it's the answer. I know it had a detrimental effect really on my marriage at the time. But my wife was understanding.
Yeah.
But it, you know, time goes on, it reaches a stage, and it's not just that's the financial obligation. You went out spending, drinking. There's going to be a consequence. You know, my mum left us in a decent financial position, me and my sister. And like my wife did say, you're not going down that road. They've blown all your money drinking, this and that and the other. So, you know, we're fortunate, and, you know, we moved and we invested in a house. I mean, it's like that. So we've got something I know my mother will be proud of show it, because, you know, the way it was going, if I'm being honest with you, the prognosis wasn't good for our relationship. And that is the detrimental effect of, I think, my mum's death. But going forward, I think, you know, we're over that. And
How do you, if you don't mind me asking, and how did you, you know, rebound from that, from being at a pub, and that was your escapism, I suppose? Sounds like you get out of that, and in that sense, was it an intervention, yourself?
if I'm being honest, we moved.
Okay.
We moved house. Because like I said, we had everything come out at the time. You know, we had the money. I was in a position I could do it, which maybe before I wasn't really. You know, my kids had grown up, so I didn't have no commitments to turn up, looking after young children. Me and my wife was working shifts, so, you know, opposite each other. I was going down with the boys. But it reached a stage as well, is that, you know, I found it, because where I lived, I go out the garden, I could see my mum's house. And that wasn't the reason why I moved. I'm wrong to say that. But like when we sold the house, because my mum had done the will and blah, 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 I was walking past the house, like, and because we obviously inherited my mum's dog. So I'd take it for walks past the house, and we had to put the dog down 6 months ago, but it was my mum's eyes, you know, like everywhere Alfie came with us, and I'd walk past the house, I'd stop, because cut the grass for my mum on our level, and she cut the lawn herself, and the people who moved in then, they looked unkempt a bit, and I was like, oh, my mother be cross now. It's little things, constant. But then when the time came, because my wife was from out of town, and, you know, we were in a position, her mum was 78. She moved in when I would, you know, we first got together 28 years ago. And I thought it was a bit time to give a bit back. But as well as on top of that, had I continued to what I was doing, I don't know, and I wouldn't blame my wife. I don't think we'd be together, because I was neglecting her as well. Because it was down there, finishing work, and no hangovers, go to work functioning, and you take your eye for ball, don't you know what? But I'm glad I've done it. I've done it for lots of reasons. You know, we're in a good place, touch wood, at the moment, you know? Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. It's been really impactful, and appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
It's just,
you know, I when Phil contacted me, you know, I straight away said, whatever, I'll come, you know, like I said, if it help people, and it's not even that, it's because people, when you go through it, because I never known people who had been through it, if you can have a bit of insight to how things are, you know, because it's a bumpy road, and there's things, there's challenges you're never going to know you think you go through.
Some people relate to your story, like, seeing them.
Yeah, you know, and then, you know, and I think that it's part of life, unfortunately, you know, but if it's a stepping stone and someone sees it, and, you know, maybe 10 years' time that they're going to go through it, then, well, I can relate to that, because you're not on your own, you know, because so many things, am I doing right, am I doing wrong? You know, you know, but no, I appreciate it, I thank you.
while everyone's journey is very different, there is so many similarities, and also just emotionally, and how, you know, family members, when they get this news, and, you know, with that dynamic, it's a big dynamic, right? Like how it's handled. But
And I you know, you go through grief, and one of my service users, he lost his mum, different circumstances, granted, and he was supporting me when I went back to work afterwards, and the words he said to me, which I've said to friends of mine since, is that when you do your football coaching badges, you can have a degree, you can do what you want. But he said, there's no book in the world who's going to teach you how to deal with grief. And he said, it's a process you're going to go through. And only you can do it, he said, because everyone is different. But there's no training in terms of that. It's a natural process, he said. And you know, even now, like you said, I can go in the car then, or I can laugh, joke here, and then ball cry, and it's so. But that's part of it, isn't it?
yeah,
And you're not alone. I think we all go through that. So cry if you're going to cry.
for sure.
There's no harm.
And I think that's a stigma, right, of generationally crying's weakness.
Weakness.
Or just, you know, just showing that emotion and its weakness. But I think it's important for people and for us and to understand that's not right. It's if anything, it's strength. So you enter, just talk and show emotion and to totally be yourself. And
No worries, guys. Thank you. I'm a moment on a bed.
Thank you for listening to Brave Talks.
where real stories become true.